Hello YouTube, this is Brian Tubbs coming at you with another video. Today I'm continuing on the piece we call Reaching. This was a piece that I mentioned in I think the last video, that it was at a law office in Ohio. Some strong winds came and blew it over because it didn't have, it wasn't staked into the ground or screwed into the concrete. It was just kind of sitting on some dirt mound, and we told the person that purchased it numerous times to have it staked down or get some concrete screws and shoot them in. They have to do something, but they didn't do it, and they left it outside, and it blew over twice. They had two major storms and it blew over twice. So some damage on this portion here, damage here, this was dented in, and then this donut goes into the center here. It came loose. There was so much force that it broke the welds loose from in here, and what used to be down here used to be a plate down here. Let me grab this plate real quick. This was the plate. This is core 10. I was sitting in this section here, but I took my cutoff wheel, just cut all this out, and I put all new metal in its place. I mean, it's in there in a way that you can't tell that this was taken out and that was put in. It just takes a little bit of learning how to weld and grind, getting the weld off. But the key, one of the keys to it, is not having it show where this came from. Is that when you have two pieces of metal together, let me see. This is a piece of stainless steel, but it doesn't matter. So when you have the two pieces of metal butted up together like that, what you want to do is, as you're welding across the area, you want to build that weld up kind of high. You don't want it level with the two pieces of metal, because oftentimes when you TIG weld, the weld will kind of sit down a little bit, kind of sink down just a little bit, because it's penetrating the metal. But if you have your two pieces of metal together properly, there should be either no gap or very little gap between the two pieces of metal as they sit together. And when you're welding, like I said, the first pass is going to kind of sink down in. If you have your heat set right, it's going to sink down in some. And then you do your second pass on top of that, and what you're trying to do is build that puddle up, get your beads up, so it's kind of hovering over the top of the metal. It's not level with the metal, but it's a little bit higher than the metal. And then what you do after you do that, put your grinder just on the weld bead, and you knock the weld bead down until it gets fairly level with the parent metal. And what I do to knock the first bead down, and I'll take a flat 36-inch grit disc, and I'll put it right on the weld bead, and just trying to knock the weld bead down without touching too much of the parent metal, because I do not want to dig in to the parent metal on either side. So after I use a flat disc, F-L-A-T, 36 grit disc, I'll go from that In this case, I just went with a 40. I could have gone with a 60 or 80 because I'm I'm TIG welding, so the weld is not as hard as it would be if it was a MIG weld. So then I'll take, this is a 40 flap FLAP disc, and then I will go over the weld with this, but then I would just kind of barely touch the parent metal on each side of that weld, so I'm blending, kind of feathering that weld in. Then after I use this 40, I'll probably take it down to about an 80 or 120, just depending on how it's cutting. So I hit it with the 40 just lightly, just to kind of get that weld blended, and then I'll take a 80 or 120 and then do the final blending of that weld. And that way I'm not taking much of the parent metal away, and it's really just acting as, it's kind of buffing and smoothing the weld into the parent metal. And in that way, when you run your hand across like this area here, there's no dips. Because usually, if you don't know exactly how to do it, when you put those two pieces of metal together and you put the heat on it, so like right now they're flat. But when you put the heat on it, they'll want to suck down a little bit, or they'll pucker up if it's too tight and there's nowhere for it to go. It'll go either up or down. But what I'll do is I'll get them lined up almost perfectly. I'll spend some time doing it, get them lined up perfectly, because I know it's either going to want to go down slightly or up slightly. So I know if I put my metal too tight together, it's going to either go, most likely it'll go up. It'll have a raised spot there. So when I say put the metal together, I want it together, but it doesn't, not so tight that I know it's going to pucker. And normally if I have like a really tight area like that, really tight, and it's a flat piece, I can clamp it to the table, and then just kind of tack it with the TIG welder. Just tack it like on the edges, or on the center, and then start going like an inch apart with the tacks, let it kind of cool down, because I know what it's going to try to do. But in a situation like this, I don't have anything to really clamp it to. I can put clamps here around it, but it's still not going to keep it from kind of puckering down. So what I did was, like I said, I put it together, tacked it all around here, put really tight tacks everywhere. Because if I didn't, it would try and raise up here, or suck down, or raise up here, suck down somewhere. I put a lot of little tacks on there. Then I went back and I welded this portion first. Then I welded like the side, welded here, and then I welded that side. But again, building my welds up high, slightly higher than the parent metal. So when I went back, started welding, I started grinding, I was able to knock those welds down to the parent metal height, then just kind of take the grinder and just kind of smooth it in just a little bit. So like I said, running your hand across it, you can't feel any difference in metal height. So today, there's a few pinholes, the spots here I'm going to get. Then I'm going to just touch up a couple pinholes on this donut. Everything, grind everything back down, make it look good. Then I'll put it back in here. But this time I'm not going to weld from inside because I can't get in there because there's a cap here. Yeah, this is solid. So I'm just gonna weld this small little welds on each side to clamp back together, which will be just the same as if I had watered it from the inside. And I'll make the welds really small, so your eye really won't even see the welds on there. But that's kind of where I'm at today. So what I'm going to do is get my gear on. Then I'm going to kind of dim this camera a little bit so that the light won't be so bright. It don't hurt you guys' eyes. So next thing you'll see, it's going to look a little darker here, and then I'll go ahead and fire the TIG welder up. Alright. So I'm using ER70S2, I believe it is. 3/32 diameter. And it's 70 amps on the hook welder, and I'm probably about 12-15 CFM on the gas. I'm not going to have my gas turn way up. This welding is going to be knocking down anyway. And if you guys notice, I am using the Lincoln today. I haven't had a chance to get back to my Weld Pro to go through a bunch of steps as far as, you know, getting it set up and welding. I welded with it one time. It was nice, but I just went back to my Lincoln just to do this because I know that welder, and I don't want to be blowing big holes through it. So we'll go ahead and fire it up, guys. More I weld, the more I'm going to blow holes. I gotta be really gentle on my pedal. Looks pretty good from here. Go ahead and brighten the lights back up. So it's primarily just working in this area here. What I'm going to do next, start on donut. Now pretty much there's a hole on the top portion here, and on the bottom side there's a few more holes. So I'll primarily just kind of TIG welding that up just to get everything kind of straightened up, leveled out. Then I'll be doing some grinding, just trying to smooth it back in some. It's not necessary that I weld the holes, because this hole is a little tiny pinhole. It's gonna be down on the bottom of this piece. And then the other little holes that's on down here will be up in here. So you never see them. But I'd rather just try and get it looking as good as possible. The customer that owns this piece will never know it. People looking at the piece will never know it, but I will know it. So I'm just going to go ahead and just kind of clean it up a little bit. This donut fell twice with this thing. And there's this portion on here that had a slight little dent in it. But I was able to go through and get my grinder and kind of smooth everything back out, so it looks really nice. So the next thing you'll see me doing is just TIGging up this. So I'll kind of get the camera darkened up so you guys can see kind of what I'm doing. All right. I have to remind myself to grab the clamp off the base of this one, put onto the table so I wouldn't get shock. Just getting shocked this time of year is not as bad as getting shocked in the summer when it comes to this stuff, because when it's summertime you're slightly sweaty. And I know a guy that was welding, TIG welding, sweating because it was so hot, and he didn't think about it. Before he knew it, he was shocked and he was in the hospital just from being shocked by this thing. Okay guys, I'm going to go ahead and get started with my pedal over here. Here we go. Alright, so that was the pinhole. I see one little small one here, really small. No, it's not. It was a piece of lint or dirt or something. I'm good with that one. So now, I'm going to move this ER70S rod out of my way, so I might pick it up and go out to the stainless steel. So I'm going to move over. So I'll flip this over. This side has a few pinholes in it. This is the side that took the most damage when the thing fell over. I'll go ahead and make it look good again. All right, here we go. Alright. Bring it over so you guys can see what I'm doing. So if you guys can see, right here in this section here, there's some holes there. And this is one of the areas right here where it attached to the upper portion of the stainless steel was in there. And of course this section down here was attached to the bottom, but I've already smoothed all that out. There was one pinhole there, so I was able to fix that pinhole. And now what I'm going to do is just get my grinder and just go through and knock all this down, smooth it out. And then it'll be just about ready to put back on the piece. I can go and put my small little beads in certain spots, and then be ready to go back to the customer. I'll be glad to just get it out of here. So I need the room, so I'm going to start with another sculpture. I don't know if you guys can see on this desk. This is all aluminum, all this stuff. All this stuff up here is aluminum. I'm going to be making some sculptures, just small tabletop sculptures, just purely abstract, just lines going this way and that way. A lot of our tabletop pieces are abstract, but not in the sense where they're just going all over the place. Some of them are, but not really. I'm going to just do some aluminum stuff just to do something different, try and cut some of the weight down, because our trailer has, you know, these bigs in there, and we have these stainless steel and core 10 tabletop pieces that weigh a ton. So I'm going to start using some lighter metal just to do something different and not have to carry all this weight all the time. Well guys, that's going to do it for this video, and I think the next video will be me finishing up reaching. Should have the donut in, or close to having it in. And the other thing I want to do after I get this all smoothed out and everything, line it up on here. I'm going to put a little drain hole on here, because what you'll find out when you start doing this stuff, as it sits outside, it's got to start getting condensation buildup, and before you know it, it'll be full of water. And it's not because you have like big holes and whatnot somewhere where rain and snow is getting in there. It's just from the differences in temperature. Like I was looking at a abstract piece about a couple weeks ago in front of a DTE building, which is Detroit Edison building. Somebody did an aluminum large sculpture, and I had been driving by it for probably a year and a half, something like that. Never stopped to look at it. So a couple weeks ago I said, well, I'm gonna take my time, stop, and look at this piece. So I pulled over, got out of my car and walked around it. I mean, nice piece. It's just, it was just the aluminum color. It wasn't painted or anything like that. It was just a regular aluminum color. So I'm walking around this thing, and I noticed that they had 3 columns going up from the ground. Probably 4-inch by 12-inch. These columns, probably about 10 feet tall, 3 of them. Then they had another piece kind of wrapped around it, going through it. Then they had a piece of round stock, about, I don't know, 8 feet long, going through it. And then they had a square tube about the same 8 feet next to the round, going through it. And then they had a ring, a donut, kind of like this, but just really big. it sat on top and kind of wrapped around everything, sitting there. So I'm looking at it, trying to understand what they were trying to convey with it and all that kind of stuff. Then I'm walking around looking around to see if there's a tag on it, a name tag with who the artist is and anything like that. No tag. And then next thing I know, I felt this big bump on my head. Bam! I said, what the heck was that? It was the square tube that they had going through this thing, sticking out. And I'm walking, looking down. Next thing you know, it hits me on top of my head, one of the corners of it. I was just thankful I had my baseball cap on, so that took away some of the shock when it hit. But I thought it had split my head open. So that's one thing that I normally don't do. Just kind of getting off the subject of it. I normally don't do that. I don't have like sharp edges on our pieces. If I have a sharp edge, it's going up away from people's head. Like we were at the Detroit Riverwalk, which is close to Belle Isle, close to Renaissance Center, Detroit. We were walking. My wife and I were just walking one evening, right along the river. And so we get to this area where they have some sculptures, and they had this one. It was a figure of a man, almost like a cowboy figure. It was probably 4 inches wide front to back, probably, I don't know, 3 feet wide, you know, the body going up. Pretty tall figure. But they had these, if you can imagine a pipe, it was probably 3 inches diameter. They were going through the man's body, going through his body, different portions of his body. And these things were sticking out of his body. So when a person walks by and we're not paying attention, it would hit him in the head or in the eye or the shoulder, just walking by. So I noticed that the piece, this portion that was sticking out, was bent. Like either somebody walked into it really hard, or somebody got upset with the piece and hit it with a baseball bat or something, but it bent. But I never have things extending out, because when people walk past it, I don't want them to, you know, bust their head open, put their eye out, knock their teeth out. Because what that would mean for me in our business is a lawsuit. So I said that about the cowboy because I'm getting back to this piece that I was looking at. I bumped my head on the thing. But what I noticed after standing there I was there for probably about 30 minutes, just looking at this piece, studying this piece, just seeing why did they do what they did and how and all these kind of things. I was looking, the piece was pretty big, so I was looking for the seams, like where they welded the piece together, because I knew it couldn't be just one big piece. So I'm looking at the seams and seeing how they blended their seams and all this kind of stuff. And so after a couple minutes standing there, I noticed water was dripping. I'm saying, where's the water coming from? It's not raining, it's completely dry out here. The sculpture on the outside was dry. I'm saying, where's the water coming from? So I took my hand and started tapping the metal, and I could hear a difference in sound. When I was up, it was really like a hollow sound. When I started getting lower, it started to make like I'm a little bit more muffled. And that's when I realized it was full of water. So they did not drill drain holes in the piece. So after sitting there so long, water found its way to like a pinhole. Like I was just fixing here. Found its way to a pinhole or a little split in the middle where they didn't quite weld it together properly. So you had some water leaking out of it. And what that would do over time, it would just, the hole will either expand or there will be so much gunk from inside the piece that it will clog the hole, and then before you know it, this whole thing is going to be full of water. Aluminum don't rust, but if it gets full of water and the winter sets in, the only thing it's going to do is the water is going to expand, and before you know it, if they had any weak areas on that, when they welded it, and they were grinding it, taking the welds down, if there's any weak spot, it's going to bust the thing open. So, I said all that to say, whenever you make a piece, outdoor piece, large piece, put little drain holes. I mean, it could be, I don't know, 1/8 of an inch diameter, 1/4 of an inch, something like that. Like I have a drain hole back here, underneath here, on the bottom down here. Then on this piece, these are 2 separate pieces. On certain of these, the piece we have outside I just made, this piece goes all the way through this piece, so it's one piece that you see on front and back. But on this one, I just have this border to the back side, and have this piece border to the front side, which you really can't tell that it doesn't go through. But on this separate piece, I have a hole welded and drilled under here for condensation. So when you guys start making pieces, just know that when you put a piece outside, I don't care where it is, what state, city, whatever, condensation is going to start building up. So always put some drain hose there. Well, alright guys, that's going to do it for this video. And like I said, the next video, I will hopefully be finishing this piece up, because again, I'm ready to get it back to the rightful owner, so I can start playing around making some stuff out of aluminum. And I'll let you guys look in on that as well. And just kind of as I learn, I will tell you guys what I'm seeing and what to do and what not to do and all that kind of stuff. But alright guys. Oh yeah, one last thing. I just left Best Buy not long ago, because on Halloween I was calling Comcast, which is Xfinity, to get my monthly bill lower, because there's no way in the world I should be paying $300 for television or TV and I barely watch it because I'm out here doing different things. And so I messed around and called a scammer. They had one of Xfinity's phone numbers. It was an 855 area code, and it was saying if you want to talk to a human being as opposed to talking to a machine, call this number for Xfinity. So I called the number, and the guy was taking me through some stuff. And as he was taking me through, he was asking for certain information. Of course, I didn't give him like a social security number or anything like that. But he was asking, you know, what type of system and all these things. And the whole time I'm thinking, you're asking me about the system I'm on. You're Xfinity, I have my internet through you. You should know what system I have. So he was asking me different question. Then it just kept going on from there. And then he was asking me to put in a PIN so we can get in to see what my bill looked like, my previous bills, so he can take it, try and get some money reduced. I went through the whole thing, and in the end, I found out that it was a scammer, because as we went through the process, they took control of my computer, and they were saying that they had to do that in order to, because this, I'm going to slow down just a little bit. They overcharged us like $30 for the month of October. So I asked him, if you overcharged me by $30 for month of October, how many months back have you been overcharging us? So that's how we got to this whole thing. Then he was saying that he needs to give me a code to enter into this on this certain page, 5-digit code. He needs to do that in order to get into the Xfinity account, so so they can see what it was, and they can send money back to our banking account. Which is, I mean, Xfinity does something similar to that, but they don't ask you to enter a code. And then I'm saying, okay, you need me to give you this code so you can get to my bank account. You should already have my bank account, because if you guys are taking money out of my bank account each month to pay the bill, then you should already have a bank account. So it just kept getting more and more fishy and kind of funny sounding, if you will. And so we get to a point where I notice my screen goes blue, and it has this something across the screen that we're just trying to deposit your money back into your account. Hold on. But then my wife and I, we noticed the mouse hand was moving back and forth, but we couldn't see what it was doing. So I said, let's shut it down. So I shut the computer down, and to go back just a little bit, we have been talking to this one guy for about 30 minutes. He's from India. I knew he was from India just by the way he spoke. Nothing against any people, Indian people. I love Indian people. Nothing against them at all. But this guy, I knew he was from India, but when he wanted us to fill out this form, he said his name was John Wilson. I said, man, how in the heck is your name John Wilson? And so we spoke to him for about 30-35 minutes. And then all of a sudden, when it was time for him to supposedly put $30 into our account, the screen went blue and he hung up the phone. So I sat there for about 15 seconds and I called the number back, no answer. So how can this be Xfinity if they don't answer their phone? So another couple of seconds later, we received a phone call, and there was another person from India who said he was this guy's supervisor. And the whole time, my screen was blue and I could see the mouse button. So I said, I'm shutting it down. So I shut the computer down. And the guy that was supposedly his field manager was like, oh, you don't trust us. You don't trust us. What are you doing? Don't shut the computer down. Shut the computer down. He hung up. So what it was they, if you go on Google and you type in Xfinity or Comcast, you go down a list, and there's people ask these questions, stuff like that. How is Xfinity connected to Comcast? Questions like that. How can I speak with a customer representative? Then it had a link saying, how can I speak to a human being, a real person, and not a machine? So that was the number I called. He picked up. It was kind of nasty. I was going to hang up in the first right away, but I said, well, maybe he's just having a bad day. But what it was is, if you guys ever call a number and they pretend that they're a company and they start asking you for information that they should already have, and then they want to take you to a page and send you a 5-digit code to enter into this box, know that they are a scam. They're trying to give you that code, so when you enter that code and you hit submit, you are going onto their C2 server, which is a command control server, and that's how they're able to take over your computer. And a lot of times, if a person is not computer savvy enough, or if they're not thinking, they will allow these people to just take control of their computer, and the person that's talking to them is trying to be nice and all this stuff, and in the meantime, the other person that you were talking to is in the background getting their information onto your computer So that every time you use your computer, they can go in and take like passwords, they can take social security numbers, they can link up to your bank accounts, they can do all these things, and they're taking your identity, and then they'll start taking your money out of your accounts. So if you're talking to somebody and they say enter a 5-digit code, don't do it. Because they're putting this code, this C2 server is giving them a code. They're gonna put that code into C2 into your system, and it will link it to that C2 server, and then it's going to put another link behind the scenes called a screen check, or something like that. I can't remember exactly what it is right now. I just went through it. Screen start, something to that effect. But what it is when you turn your computer on, this thing will turn on. And while you're doing your daily activity, it's stealing all your information. So again, you're talking to somebody, they try and give you a 5-digit code, you say no, just hang up on them, or go off on them, then hang up on them. And there's no way to get the thing off of your computer other than have your computer wiped clean. Everything has to be wiped off. And I had, the virus protection and all that. I had WebRoot on my computer, but it bypassed the WebRoot because the servers they're using are legit. It's ConnectWise is the company that they go through. And ConnectWise is a major company that does like networking for a lot of your major big companies. So these scammers are using ConnectWise to go through and put this link called, it's called Screen Connect. It's a link in there. WebRoot, no one else can find it unless they know it's there. And so I took my computer to Best Buy. They had it for like 3 or 4 days. Their so-called Geek Squad experts went through it, did all of their, virus cleanup and all this garbage that they say they do. And so they called me last night, told me to come pick it up this morning. So I went and picked the computer up, and I was asking the guy at the counter, did they do certain things? And he said, oh, I'm sure they did everything, and they got all the viruses and all that kind of stuff. So I said, okay, you think so? He said, oh yeah, I'm sure they did everything. So what I did was I took my computer, went out to my car, and the thing I was looking for, so what you have to do is you go to your computer, you go to the control panel, and then from the control panel, you go to Windows Tools. From Windows Tools, you click on that, you go into Services. You click on Services, and you get all of this, all these different things that from A all the way down to Z. All these things are in your system. And so what you want to look for is ConnectWise, or you go down to the S section and you look for Screen Connect. So after these so-called experts, Geek Squad had my computer for 3 or 4 days. They ran all their software tests and all this stuff. I go through those steps, get to that screen, scroll down, and sure enough, Screen Connect was still there and it was running. So as soon as I turned the computer on, it started running. In order to shut it off, you can't delete it from your system unless you wipe everything clean. Other than that, you can't wipe it. You can't get it off of there. It's there. So what you got to do is go to that link where it says Screen Connect, right click, you'll get some options. Automatic and startup, automatic or automatic startup. Then you get some other things. And at the very bottom of that drop down, it'll say disable. So what you do is you click disable, and then once you click disable, you have to click apply. After you click apply, the drop down box will go back up and you'll just see a link. Then what you have to do after that is right click on it again, and then you'll get another drop down menu, and it'll have stop, and it'll have some other things in it. You be sure to hit stop. You gotta hit stop. And once you hit stop, that shuts this background virus down. It can no longer send out web bots to your system, because what it does is it send out a web bot to do a certain thing, a certain task, and then it'll get information from the C2 server, the command center. It's going to tell, I could be a little bit off in WebBot, but I'm using WebBot so you understand what this thing is doing. It's like going through your system, just kind of walking through your system, just doing different things. It'll get the next signal to go from what it was doing there to the next portion, and then it'll either stop and get a next command, or it'll just keep going. But what I did when they first started doing it, I turned my system off, so it had to stop, it shut down. And I didn't turn my system back on my server until after I took it to Geek Squad, so it was off of my server. They turned and I went to did the crap they did, gave it back to me, so I went through and found that. So I took my system back into the store and told the guys that I brought my computer in here for you guys to fix this, and you didn't fix it. And they're basically looking at me like they had no clue what I was talking about. They did not know of the C2 servers. They did not know how to stop this thing in the background. They didn't even know it was there. So guys, I said all of this. So if you're ever talking to somebody, you think it's the company you want, they start asking you for personal information, they start asking you to put in a 5-digit code. That's key. The 5-digit code. Do not do it. Just say no, you're a scammer. Either hang up or say a few words to them and then hang up. Go through the steps I just told you and get that thing off of your system. But it will. And even now, had I not told Best Buy to just wipe my system clean, the link will still be there. It would just be disabled or stopped. But you can't get it off your system unless you wipe everything clean, take it back to factory, and that gets rid of everything. But I mean, major companies, these large companies, they can't do that because they have this virus is spread throughout their systems. And oftentimes, the only one that can take it off of your system is the one that put it on your system, which will be the person, in this case, the guys from India that had their server set up. They are the only ones that can take your system off of their server. So if you don't know that it's there, they'll be stealing information from you for the next 20 years. That's how people get their identity stolen. The bank accounts are wiped out. The FBI, the CIA, they can't do anything about it because they don't know where it's coming from. It's gonna be coming from anywhere. So, just as a warning to you guys, evidently I went through it for you guys. So, 5-digit code, say no, you're a fraud. Get the heck out of here. And so, that's kind of where I am today. I let Best Buy just wipe it clean. When I get it back, I'm still going in there myself to see if that link is gone, because that's the only way you can get it off of there, is just wiping it clean. Alright guys, that's my my lesson for today, and I'll see you guys on the next video as I finish up reaching and kind of move on to some other aluminum stuff. All right, guys, that's going to do it for today. As usual, peace out.